The crank is in. Now I'm going to give it another shot of lube right on top. Even though I've already lubed the bearings and the caps. You try to stay away from your main studs. Now your caps have an arrow on them. And if they're not numbered, when your machine shop took your engine apart, or when you took your engine apart, you should have numbered your caps. Now these ones are numbered. They also have an arrow on top telling you which way is forward. So it's arrow forward, cap number 1. So we can just go ahead and set that right on there. And then we're going to follow that procedure down the engine. And I got a little too much lube on this one, but that's okay, it'll squish out. Now this is the thrust main, so it's always a little tough to get it to go in. And everything's already clean, so that's why you don't see me worrying too much about grit. And we're going to do this one because we have to do a couple of things back here. That little bit of seal you see sticking up is also sticking up down there on the block. And what that does is that keeps your seal gap from being even with your cap gap from the cap to the block and cuts down on the chances of a leak. This other groove in here is where your oil slinger goes. That keeps oil from getting directly on the seal for the most part and helps the seal seal. And of course this is your main bearing. So when this goes on, it's actually this way. ARP includes a nice tube of lube with their studs. And you want to make sure you got some of that on the threads and around the block where your washer is going to go. Now remember, all this is just in here finger tight. It doesn't take a whole lot of it. You just want a good coating on it. And then I usually take the caps down in 3 steps, but the final torque on these from the instruction sheet is going to be 110. Okay, so what you want to do, and in case you're wondering why I'm doing this by hand, I'm walking the caps back down. I've got them all pointing the right way. Now a trick on these FEs is to go ahead and put your front 4 in and then do the back one. That way you don't forget and turn the engine over and dump the crank out is the main reason. I mean, I've seen people do that. And I'm doing this like this so in case I feel something funny or it feels like it's cucking as it goes in. After you do this a couple times, you can tell by the way it's walking down. If you hit resistance, you know something's wrong and you can back out. And I'm going to go ahead and torque all of these, and then I'm going to do the back, and I'll probably spin. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to spin it till I feel it pull a little bit. And that's going to kind of give me a walk down on this cap. And you can tell when the stud starts to turn. And then now I'm back to just turning nut. So we're ready to put the rear cap on. Now before you do what I'm getting ready to do over here, make sure you let this piece of seal hang past the edge of the block so you don't damage it. Because you got to kind of get everything in place. Now I've already put the ARP lube on the bolts. And I'm going to go ahead and set these bolts and washers here. Now you need a little bit of motor oil. And then you want to follow the instructions on this package, which is particular to the FE, and I think a couple of old motors from the 50s may also have this set up. These are your side seals to your rear cap, and they seal the cap to the block. And then after you get them in, you drive these nails down in there to tighten them up. And then you have to trim the nails off or bump them down just below the surface of the pan ridge on the back of the block here so your oil pan will seal. Alright, so we got one per side. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick these in these two oil pan holes so they got somewhere to land. And get the hammer ready. This is another one of those fun parts where you actually get to hit stuff with a hammer and don't damage anything. That's some runny oil.
Synthetic.
Alright. And this is kind of a two-handed deal. You got to kind of get a hold of it, get it lined up on the studs, get these seals started, and it's all kind of got to go together. And don't hang your shirt up on the handle to the engine stand.
Wipe them off.
Okay, so now that we got it in, you want to run these down finger tight. Or in this case, socket tight without any driving facilities. And the same as when the rest of the caps are going on, you'll feel the cap moving as it goes down. Okay, so we're going to stop right there. Now you want to get in this little groove here in the side of the rubber. And you want to drive this little nail down until it bottoms out. And if it keeps going all the way down, which it did, that's awesome. And you want to do the same thing on this side. Whoever thought you'd be driving nails in an engine? Punch. And the trick here is to get it just below the top of the block. As you can see, the crank still rotates freely. That tells you you got no binding, and just one more way of checking and verifying your machine work. Now this has got 10 under mains and 10 under rods. This is fairly low mileage, really good condition for an old FE.